In the previous lecture, we discussed the structure of the Common CADS knowledge models. And in this lecture, we will go through a set of predefined templates for such knowledge models. They will allow you to reuse these knowledge models. They have been developed in the past, they have been applied many times. And the first step for you in your project will be to decide which template you could reuse for these knowledge models, so that you could build your own knowledge model by starting from such a template, and by filling it in, and by perhaps changing it according to your needs. So in the Common CADS book you will find a catalog of such task templates meant for reuse. And in this lecture we will go through a number of these templates. So on the one hand, this is a little bit boring because we're just going through one set of templates and another template and another template for different tasks. On the other hand, this is also good news because most likely one of these templates will be very useful for you in your project. Why is this good? Well, of course it's great because it's more cost and time efficient if you can reuse structures that have been proven to be useful. It also makes your task much simpler, and maybe most important of all, it allows you to reuse insights by others. So these task templates have been constructed and debugged over many years and many different projects by many different experts, and your system will gain in quality by reusing these templates that were defined and developed by others. Here is a list of the different tasks which are supported by the different templates. So one typical task is classification, where we are being given a set of properties and we want to choose a category. So we want to classify, say, products into luxury products or essential products or and so on. So we're given a set of properties and we want to classify. Design is where we are being given a set of requirements. So we want a car that is fuel efficient and can drive so many miles and can take so many passengers and so on. And from these requirements we want to design an object. Diagnosis is a common task where we are given a set of observations, and the challenge is to come up with the causes that explain these observations. Monitoring is a prototypical task where we are being given actual observed behavior, and we are asked to compare this actual behavior with expected behavior and to see where the observed behavior differs from the expected behavior. Assessment is when we are given behavior, a process, and we are supposed to classify this into a category. So assessment of, say, a pupil. Right? So a pupil, a school pupil behaves in a certain way, and can we classify this behavior in a particular category. Planning, where planning is similar to design. We're being given a set of requirements, but here we're not constructing an object description, we're constructing an action description. The action description, of course, is known as a plan. So these are just some examples of the tasks which are performed by knowledge-based systems. And for each of these tasks, there are task templates of knowledge models. And each of these task templates are for such a specific task type, and they consist of reusable elements. So they consist of an infrastructure that you could start from. Very often you will see the need to change these infrastructures for your own sake, but at least it helps to start with one. It contains a control structure over such infrastructures, and it contains a domain schema that you need to fill in your domain. So this is exactly in accordance with the structure of the overall Common CADS model. Right, so a task template consists of a knowledge model template consists of task knowledge, inference knowledge, and domain knowledge. This library is not just a flat set of library. This library is organized as a hierarchy of tasks. And there's been much debate on how to organize tasks in groups that belong together. And this is partly psychology, partly philosophy. but it is useful to organize the library as a hierarchy. And the hierarchy consists of two main groups. The first group is analytic tasks, and the second is synthetic tasks. So the idea of an analytic task is that something is existing and we're trying to find out something about something that already exists. And a synthetic task is about something that doesn't yet exist, and we're trying to construct a description of the thing that doesn't exist. So that sounds fairly abstract, but we can make this fairly concrete by looking at the actual hierarchy. So here is the hierarchy of all tasks, and all tasks are split up into analytic tasks and synthetic tasks. Now, analytic tasks are about things that exist and we're trying to somehow find out something about them. So we're trying to classify something, we're trying to diagnose something, we're trying to assess something, or to monitor something. Whereas with synthetic tasks, we're trying to construct something, or we're trying to design an object, we're trying to design a plan, we're trying to construct an assignment of resources, we're trying to construct a schedule, and so on. So those are the two main families of tasks. And the first question that you should ask yourself when you are beginning to browse the Common Cats library for a suitable task template, the first question you should ask yourself is, am I doing an analytic task or am I doing a synthetic task? Because it will tell you in which part of the library you should be searching for a suitable task template. Couple of comments. Because this is a hierarchy of tasks. Now, tasks contain subtypes. So, for example, the previous diagram showed you design as one of the subtasks of synthetic, but design in itself also has many subtypes. So we can have configuration design, creative design, assignment design, and so on. So this is really a hierarchy, and the picture on the previous slide was just the first level of that hierarchy. Oh, actually, I sneaked in. I see now here is the top level, so the synthetic tasks, then there's the design tasks, and here you see already a subtype of design tasks. And there are more of these types of design in the library. And of course, the same is true for any of these other tasks. Finally, it's important to realize that a single knowledge-based system may actually need to perform multiple types of tasks. So a single knowledge-based system may need to perform multiple tasks. So think of what a doctor does. A doctor first performs a diagnosis to determine what disease, and then they need to prescribe a treatment. And the treatment may sometimes be rather complicated. So think of cancer treatments. A cancer treatment is very complicated. It takes a long time. It consists of multiple sessions. It consists of maybe a combination of radiotherapy, chemotherapy, physiotherapy. So the doctor is first doing a classification task or a diagnosis task, and then is doing a design task, namely designing the treatment. Similar, if you're in a shop and the shopkeeper is trying to give you an advice about a product, then the shopkeeper is first trying to classify you into a particular type of customer. So what are you, a luxury customer or an expert customer or a beginner customer? And then based on your classification, they're designing the right product for you. Right? Do you want this product with this feature or that product with that extra feature and so on? So again, the overall task of the system consists of multiple types of tasks. Now, because your projects are rather small in time and scope, we would suggest that you only pick a project where you do a single task type. So where you only do classification, only design. So if you will come to us and say, well, I want to do, say, advice about particular products, right? Then we would advise you to focus, for example, on the classification stage of that advice task and ignore the design. Or we would advise you to maybe assume that the classification is already done by magic and then you focus on the design task. But in real life, a real knowledge-based system and the task of a real knowledge-based system is often a combination of multiple tasks. So this already said, each of these templates consists of a general description of the task, a default method, some variations, and the domain schema that you typically use. This is what we will find in each of these templates that we're going to discuss. So the lecture will be a little bit boring because we'll go through each of these templates, but it's important that you will be able to pick the appropriate template.